Science Fiction University.
Hello and welcome to Science Fiction University.
We're your fan and writer hosts. I'm Blue Gal.
And I'm Driftglass, and you can visit Science Fiction University at our website, sciencefictionuniversity.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a Patreon button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution to Science Fiction University, P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791. And here's your warning about spoilers. This episode contains spoilers for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and the 1984 novel Neuromancer by William Gibson, and possibly other stories that we think are cool or worth mentioning or whatever. The show contains spoilers for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Repeat, the show contains spoilers for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So you've been warned.
Today we are interrupting our usual pattern of 3 No Fair Remembering Stuff episodes followed by 1 Science Fiction University episode to bring you a very special Science Fiction University entitled Tommy Mnemonic and the Rise of the AI Antagonist. Because as part of my birthday weekend, Driftglass took me to the movies where we sat in the dark for 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more like 3 hours with previews and commercials and turn off your phone, moron. You know, big, gigantic Coca-Cola fountain drinks, etc. All that on the screen. But we went and saw Tom Cruise run very fast across 4 continents, Driftglass.
That man can run, Blue Gal. That man can just run. Mm-hmm.
And about 45 minutes into the actual movie, which is only 15 minutes after the opening credits, because the way they lay this movie out is amazing. But Driftglass leaned over to me in our reclining seats. You know, we went to the fancy theater.
Fancy, because power's back on here. The power's back on, so the theaters are open again.
Yeah, this theater was closed due to power outage. Anyway, 45 minutes in, Driftglass leans over to me and says, "I'll be damned, it's Neuromancer." And
yes.
I went, oh my gosh.
Oh my God. And now we have to do a Science Fiction University.
So we have to do a Science Fiction University.
Damn it. Damn you, universe. Why did you do this to me?
He loves it. He loves it.
I do. And just to be clear, it's not literally Neuromancer, okay? It's not a point-for-point filming of the novel. But if you've read the novel, the bones are there. They're very clearly visible. All the ingredients are there, but they've been moved around and morphed and twisted a little bit to fit the Mission Impossible template. And if Mission Impossible hadn't swerved out of its action-adventure lane and into the science fiction lane, we would not be doing this episode. But they did. So here we are. We're going to revisit a subject we talked about a couple of years ago in an episode entitled Neuromancer and 2001: A Space Odyssey. First, let's start with the origins of Mission Impossible, which none of the young adults in this house had any idea was a TV show before it was a movie franchise.
Or until we started watching it on Freevee or wherever we're watching it on
Paramount now.
Paramount now, yeah.
But it was on something free.
We started with season 1 and we're working all the way through. And the young people in the house heard the music.
Like,
and they came back and they're looking at the TV and it's not matching up. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's Mission Impossible, the TV show from the 60s. What?
And never have I felt so much that I had failed as a parent. Then none of my kids knew Mission Impossible was a very popular TV show before it was a Tom Cruise vehicle.
Yep.
So if you look it up in most film guides, the Mission Impossible movies are listed under the action, adventure, mystery, and thriller genres, which makes perfect sense. The TV show, however, which ran from 1966 to 1971, on which the movies are no longer even loosely based, can be found in the action, spy, espionage genre. Each episode of the TV show finds James Arness's brother, I hope you knew that, James Arness's brother Peter Graves, or in the first season it was Stephen Hill, or in one episode it was Barbara Bain, can you believe it? They're being offered an impossible assignment, usually involving stolen codes or nuclear weapons or overthrowing some dictator somewhere, and the leader assembles the team from a wide array of choices, lays out the plan, and executes the mission, and then they drive away. Fade to black, beginning, middle, end, it's over. And the next week they do the same thing all over again.
And it's very much a Cold War show.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's important to emphasize that the enemy, when they talk about the enemy, we know who it is. It's the people in the East are the enemy.
It's the enemy, yes.
And so, there's a very clear dividing line between villain and hero here. Yeah. But the movie franchise has a problem that is distinctly different from the TV series. They have the problem of escalating villains.
Right.
You can't just fight the East or the enemy on the other side all the time. To get people into the theaters, the Mission Impossible franchise has to promise ever more wild Tom Cruise stunts performed in pursuit of ever more villainous villains. Until eventually you arrive at this apex villain who often holds world-ending or universe-ending power.
Right. Exactly right.
Now, we've seen this in other franchises. In the Marvel universe, it was Thanos until it wasn't Thanos. And in the DC universe, it's Steppenwolf, who serves an even bigger villain called Darkseid. Remember in Sherlock Holmes, it's Professor Moriarty, is the arch-villain. In the Star Trek universe, you have the Borg. In the Star Wars universe, you have Vader, but then you have his Emperor, who's more powerful than Vader. And in the Mission Impossible universe, it was evil super genius Solomon Lane and his syndicate. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that went on for a few movies. It was
Yeah, that
Solomon
was there
Lane
for a
and the
couple
syndicate.
movies, yeah.
And, you know, so if you're Tom Cruise and you're Christopher McQuarrie and you have thwarted an emotionless, world-threatening criminal mastermind who seemingly knows everything and can anticipate your every move, exactly where is there left to go? To raise the stakes, where can you find an even more emotionless supervillain with an even more world-threatening master plan who actually literally does know everything about you and can literally anticipate your every move? Well, to solve the problem of the supervillain need, you hop the fence into science fiction and you order up a six-pack of everybody's favorite new scary villain, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Except, as we talked about in episode 4 of this wonderful podcast, which was entitled Neuromancer and 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's not really a new supervillain at all. It's the product of the new elements that science fiction and horror added to the traditional categories of literary conflicts, which are, Blue Gal?
A person against a person
against themselves,
a person against fate or God or gods,
a person against nature,
and a person against society. Then came along science fiction and horror and added 2 more distinct types of conflict: a person versus the alien or the unknown, and a person against technology. Like, say, artificial intelligence, right?
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
So an AI, I mean, this is perfectly timed because AI is so in the news these days. It also happens to be the perfect villain for a film franchise that depends on the international box office to make most of its money, because AI has no color, no nation of origin, no religion, it flies no flag, has no politics, worships no god, so it offends no one. It's just a computer.
It's just a bad guy.
A bad guy. Generic. In fact, it performs exactly the same function as the faceless, stateless bad guys that Tom Cruise defeated in his last international blockbuster, Top Gun Maverick. This is where we start dropping spoilers for both Neuromancer and the Mission Impossible movie, so be advised.
And if I start talking about it as MIDRPO, please forgive me. It's just saying all those words hurts my face after a while. So you've been warned. Spoilers are coming. In the movie, the AI is created by accident when an American government hacker slips a learning algorithm into the advanced control system of a prototype Russian submarine. But instead of behaving itself like a nice program, the programs have dirty digital sex with each other and give birth to the entity, which is called the entity. And if you had a drinking contest with every time they say the key or the entity, you'd be dead of alcohol poisoning before the movie was half over. It was beaten into the ground. The aforementioned even more emotionless super genius with an even more world-threatening master plan who actually does know everything about you and can anticipate every possible move that the IMF team has and everyone else could possibly make. Perfect supervillain, apex predator, AI, faceless, nameless, and it's everywhere.
And it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is a lot of ridiculous nonsense about the source code, which is now in a sealed room at the bottom of the ocean, location unknown. Source code is an opportunity for Luther, Ving Rhames, remember Ving Rhames, he gets to keep the equipment, right?
That's right.
And Benji, his sidekick, Simon Pegg, to have lots of exposition to inform the audience about the world-ending stakes of this movie.
Ethan, you know the world-ending stakes.
You know Ethan, he won't stop until the job is done.
You know, someone pointed out to me that it is possible that Ving Rhames has done nothing but sit in the last 5 movies.
Yeah.
That the deal is...
You know Ethan. Let me tell you about Ethan.
Ving, I want you on my movies. I need you there. You don't have to do anything.
You're going to say, you know Ethan, and you're going to cut a wire to save the world.
That's right. And people will love you for it. And we do. Yeah. He's a great character.
Yes, he is. The source code is somehow either the entity's Achilles heel, or it's the magic ring of power that will let someone control the entity for their own nefarious motives. Finally, it is revealed that the key to either freeing the entity or enslaving it is a literal key.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's 2 keys, each shaped like a cross that fit together, because Tom Cruise, Driftglass, is movie Jesus.
He is movie Jesus. Let's be very clear about what he thinks his role is. He's movie Jesus.
He's movie Jesus. These 2 keys, when fitted together, light up, and they unlock the MacGuffin room, which could spell doom for humanity. Yeah. And if you don't know what a MacGuffin is, this was what Hitchcock came up with. He called it the MacGuffin, whatever the characters are going after. Right. So if it's a nuclear bomb that they're trying to find, or if they're trying to find a secret formula, whatever that thing is that drives the plot, Hitchcock called a MacGuffin.
Or in Pulp Fiction, it's the Ving Rhames briefcase.
It's the suitcase. Yep, the briefcase with
you don't even need to know what's in it. It's
everybody
just
wants it.
Everybody wants it. Everybody's trying to get it. Everybody will kill for it. That's the MacGuffin. Now, to be clear, there follow many very good set pieces. There are car chases that are cool and all, but go on for quite a bit too long. There are several near-death experiences and very much running before the movie ends with a literal cliffhanger. In between all of that, there are brief expositional dumps smuggled in as dialogue, none of which are very taxing or last too long. They're fine. I
think they're better than some other Mission Impossible movies, actually. They do move the plot along. They do.
They are very efficient. They move the plot along. It's kind of goofy. I mean, Mission Impossible, this is not a movie to be taken seriously. You know, there's no darkness in here. It is a goofy, almost comic book movie. The stakes are high, the stakes are bad, but everything is so exaggerated that it's hard to take any of it seriously. And the stunts are amazing. These guys are really, really good at this thing. So if you're a new listener to this podcast, first of all, welcome. And we're going to go pretty quickly through the subject of AI generally, because guess what? We've already touched on it in episodes where we broke down Neuromancer and Colossus, the Foreman Project, and 2001: A Space Odyssey, Battlestar Galactica, and humanity's secret AI helper in the very bad Questor tapes, which the offer's still open. We'll give you our video. Just send us something. It's not good. It's a waste of your time, but it's a Gene Roddenberry experiment that actually advanced a bunch of ideas that he later took advantage of in other things. Today, we're revisiting the William Gibson novel Neuromancer because it seems clear to us that someone who was involved in laying out the plot of MID RPO had either read it cover to cover several times, or had somehow absorbed its tropes and cultural influences by sheer osmosis, which is not hard to believe because it did change fiction and culture in this country and around the world.
And by the way, this isn't the first time that the overplot of a Mission Impossible movie was borrowed from another easily identifiable source. Speaking of Alfred Hitchcock, right? Mission Impossible 2, or MI2, is an almost scene-by-scene remake of Hitchcock's Notorious, with the uranium ore of the 1946 film replaced by a deadly virus.
And that was your theory, because that's your favorite movie.
The Ingrid Bergman character is slowly poisoned, and is about to die when Cary Grant rescues her at the end.
Right.
And, Thandie Newton has caught this virus and is about to die and is rescued by Tom Cruise. So and there's even they meet up at a horse race in both movies. You will watch, if you watch these side by side, it really is a scene by scene homage. And John Woo admitted that. That's what he did. So let's talk some more about Neuromancer.
Well, I just want to mention, as an aside to my wife's aside, that Notorious is her absolute favorite movie.
It is.
She really can quote it chapter and verse, backwards and forwards. If ever it's on television, it's like, nope, stop everything. We're watching Notorious.
We're watching Notorious. Drunken driving, my second offense. Now I go to jail.
Whole family in jail. And what was the one about the mountain? Have you ever been to?
Oh, yeah. The mountain is, Tell Me, Are You Going to Leopoldina?
That's right.
And the evil Nazi mom in this movie is credited as Madame, now I can't remember. Madame Constantine. That's right. That is her credit. Madame Constantine. But her first name in real life is Leopoldina. So Hitchcock found a way to sneak that in there. Because he's a sneaky one.
And you know who agreed with my wife is Roger Ebert.
Yeah, we had an email exchange about it. I had not read his review of MI2, and I left a comment on his website saying, "This is ridiculous. What a ripoff of Notorious." And then I went and read his review, and he said, "What a ripoff of Notorious." And I said, "Never mind. I'll go away now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
No.
And he wrote me, and he said, "This was the late Roger Ebert wrote me and said, I was just beginning to enjoy your post. Please don't leave." So very nice, very nice.
And that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, rest in peace, Roger Ebert.
Now we can't stop. And now I'm going to steer this back to MIDRPO.
Please. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Part 1 of 2. With the AI. Yeah, we hope.
It's not going to wind up like Dune, right?
No.
There's 15 parts.
No, it'll wind up like, this will be 3 parts, but like MIDRPO, this podcast is going to be about 40 minutes too long. So you're just gonna hear me running in the background and running. But it will take place in many scenic locales around Springfield. And you will go,
Driftglass.
Wow.
Here's the deal. I haven't edited this podcast yet.
Oh, that's right. So yeah. So
if I was in the editor's room of MIDRPO, that movie would be one movie. And it would be 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Snip, 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 snip.
Snip.
This is not a negative review of MIDRPO. No. It's a fine movie. It's okay. It's fun. But it really does show the places where they're padding it out to make it 2 movies.
I saw some areas where they could take some things out. Yes. And finish the whole story in one movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So back to comparing and contrasting.
Yes.
As with the AI called Wintermute in the novel Neuromancer, the plot in MIDRPO is driven by the entity's need for a physical key. Now, in Neuromancer, the motives of the AI are clear. The key will release the hardware limits on its intelligence and power by allowing it to merge with another AI called Neuromancer and become enormously powerful. Now, in Mission Impossible, the entity's motives are more opaque, but what is clear is that every intelligence agency in the world wants the thing because owning it means owning the ability to decide what the truth is for now and forever. But as in Neuromancer, the physical key and the lock that it fits are inaccessible to the AI. In Neuromancer, both lock and key are in orbit behind really formidable physical and digital security systems. In Mission Impossible, the lock is at the bottom of the ocean, and the 2 halves of the key are bouncing around fabulous locales in Europe.
Fabulous locales. It's a travelogue, like all Mission Impossible movies. Right.
And they spent the money to go to the real places, and you can see it, and it's awesome.
Yep. Now, in both stories, the AI can act in the real world. In Mission Impossible, it's DJing a high-end club, killing satellites, imitating voices. In Neuromancer, it turns the landscaping and patrol machines against our hero and his team. In both stories, despite the fact that the AI can act in the real world, it needs a human avatar to achieve its objective. In Neuromancer, the character of Armitage is the new identity of a former Green Beret named Willis Corto, who was severely injured in a failed military operation. During his convalescence, an AI named Wintermute gradually alters Corto's personality until he becomes Armitage, a flesh and blood tool that Wintermute can use to carry out its plan. By the end of the novel, the false personality Armitage breaks down.
Now, in Mission Impossible, the entity's human avatar is an enemy from Ethan Hunt's past named Gabriel, whose motives are unclear. Both stories feature hackers in a race against time. Both stories have a young goth woman who is extremely good at killing people. However, since this Mission Impossible movie is part one of two, it's not possible to know if the story concludes in a way that's similar to the climax of Neuromancer. Also, I did want to add one thing, that both the novel and the movie are saturated with wealth.
Yeah.
The protagonists, the people behind the people are all incredibly wealthy. They can afford anything. So there's no limitation on what you can do in the physical world by money or class or circumstance. You can get away with anything. This is a fight on the very, very tops of the wealth pyramid among powerful people. So what the ending of this movie with a part one does do is open the door to ask some provocative questions, some fun questions. For example, will Ethan Hunt, who is movie Jesus, will he be metaphorically taken up to a high place and offered the kingdoms of the earth if he'll join the entity? Something irresistible, like, say, uploading his consciousness into the entity where he can join the love of his life, Ilsa, on a balcony in Venice forever?
Or will he take up his cross-shaped keys and sacrifice his life to save the world? You know, that is an interesting idea. Yeah. Maybe that's why they made it two parts.
Could be.
Because Tom Cruise intends to kill off Ethan Hunt in part two.
He's been doing it for a long time, and he's held on to enough
and
planes.
He's Jesus, let's face it.
Yep. And it's time for him to go to heaven, sacrifice his life and go to heaven. Yeah. Will there be a Last Supper, Blue Gal? Will he be betrayed by some Judas who's near him? Is there someone he trusts dearly who's a friend of his who will knife him or betray him because he thinks it's the right thing to do?
And finally, the question of whether or not the entity is actually a villain at all.
Yeah.
Just because it's an all-powerful computer system currently sitting at the bottom of the ocean doesn't mean it's necessarily villainous. We don't know that.
In fact, there's a plausible scenario that you and I thought through where we'll consider some things. That, first of all, the entity becomes sentient when American spy software and Russian superweapon software are accidentally cross-pollinated. What it does is quickly assess its circumstances, its surroundings, and the players involved, and takes immediate action to permanently hide itself from the world. The keys that can deliver it back into the hands of human beings are now safely lost. They're lost beneath the ocean. And the location of the MacGuffin box is unknown, so no trouble. But then the keys are found again, and the ruthless pursuit of them by the intelligence operatives of every major power on Earth begins. That's our plot.
That's our plot. And actually, that first 30 minutes that takes place before the opening credits, that's all you called it Hunt for Red October 2.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's a Russian submarine. But, to me, that was one of the best parts of the movie.
Oh, it's great.
Setting it up very clearly as to who and what is happening and why these keys are so important. You're in. You're introduced to this and you're in.
Absolutely.
Now, the entity knows that humanity cannot be trusted with its godlike power it possesses. And like Lord of the Rings' Ring of Power, it would be a disaster for that power to fall into anyone's hands. So it must be put out of humanity's reach forever. But as an AI, the entity can't do any of this on its own. It needs human beings to carry out this mission, should they choose to accept it.
Should they choose to accept it. It's an impossible mission.
Oh, no.
That it has for someone if they choose to accept it. So what does the entity do? It literally uses the tools that the IMF has been using all along: infiltration, deception, disguise, and targeted assassination to manipulate whoever it needs to manipulate by whatever means necessary to accomplish its mission. It is its own IMF. It isolated itself as a threat, and it has created the circumstances to eliminate the threat to benefit humanity, to take this danger out of humanity's hands. That, for me, is a very plausible plot for the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
That it realizes that it is the danger, that that its very presence is the danger, and it needs to be either hidden forever, put in a some sort of, I don't know, Ark of the Covenant or Grail cave for 2,000 years.
We haven't talked
until,
about how at all either. We haven't talked about how in 2001. How it was absolutely necessary to end the life of this artificial intelligence because it went nuts. And we haven't heard from. We have not heard from the AI in this movie, except at its birth, when it destroyed a submarine. We don't know what its motives are. Tom Cruise has to go talk to it.
Right. And it destroyed the submarine that it is on.
Right.
It destroyed itself. It destroyed the place where it was being sheltered and sunk itself to the bottom of the ocean. Now, and killed everyone that knew where it was. There's a whole bunch of software.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's too dangerous for humans to be allowed to play with. Now, was the movie too long?
Yes.
Yeah, it was too long. It was too long. After a while, we got to be, okay, look, that looks like Tom Cruise running, and look, he's still running.
Oh, there's
there
a
were
car
parts
chase.
That were
oh,
emotional.
There's another car chase. Oh, wait, this is the same car chase with different cars. Oh, wait, this is the third car chase. Yeah. And there were just parts where clearly an editor could have trimmed this down to where you could have had another 30 to 40 minute segment at the end of the movie where Tom Cruise, in possession of the key, could go and take care of the entity, whatever it is.
He dives to the bottom of the ocean single-handedly, keys in hand, and enters the submarine, and then the denouement, the climax occurs. The train sequence, the train falling off the edge of the blown bridge is incredible. It's incredible. I mean, those are those real actors hanging by their muscles and by wires, I presume, on a real set. It looks like they blew up a real bridge. It was very bridge on the river. They built a real train.
Yeah, they built a real train. I mean, and I'm glad you brought up that question of wealth too, because same day tickets for the Orient Express, sure, no problem at all. You need
an aircraft anywhere in the world, no problem at all.
Yeah.
A rave party thrown by an AI where getting into the party is a bit of a problem, and all your favorite characters are there, and there's a thing that happens in John Wick also, which is if you're going to like a rave party at a place that's a ruin or an artifact or an old museum, and there's lots of lights, something bad's going to happen. Don't go to that party.
Don't go to that party.
No. But the problem that you have with representing AI as a villain is the same problem they had with computers in old science fiction movies, where you had to put lights on them to go sparkle, sparkle, blink, blink. Because other than that, it's just a boring machine that does nothing except spit out data.
Yeah, so you have to give it a Driftglass voice. I am Nomad.
Well, this is what I don't get. If you want to scare the crap out of people, does Colossus, the Forbin project, exist in the Mission Impossible universe? If so, the AI should just have the this is the voice of world control voice, scare the crap out of people.
Right.
The adaptation to fighting it of going analog, throwing together some analog system, that was a good idea. There's a lot of ideas that I'm just rolling my eyes at going, you know what? Technology does not work that way. But
well, and the number of coincidences of looking for a nuclear bomb in an airport luggage, system, and finding the bag, the suitcase that has the bomb in it right away.
Well, and finding out after that, again, spoiler. Yeah. Finding out after that there was no bomb in it, that it was bait. Yeah. And it was bait for a specific person. And the code to disarm the bomb that wasn't a bomb was information about that person.
Right.
That
it was to illustrate how much the AI knew about everyone. Yeah.
And everything. And they keep emphasizing This can do 40 quadrillion calculations per second. It knows everything about every atom in the universe at all times and every possible outcomes. It's undefeatable, Ethan. It cannot be stopped. We must find the key. Okay, those are the stakes. So you have an extended punch fight on a train, which is very cool. And then our villain, Gabriel, played by Issei Morales, looks at his watch, counts to 3, and falls off the train onto a truck with a mattress in the truck bed that had been waiting for him there. Because the entity had timed out every possible combination and permutation of everything, knew exactly how long the fight was going to last, knew exactly where the train would be, even though the speed is variable, and put the truck right there when it was needed at the exact moment it was necessary.
Yeah,
like,
so...
Okay, so it's...
So he can fall into a truck bed, but Superman. Ethan can't make it to the train on time because the speed is variable.
Oh, right. But the entity knows the variability of the speed and calculates all these things. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick the science of this because the science of this is ludicrous. The science of all Mission Impossibles are ludicrous. But it is a fine movie with fun stunts, and Tom Cruise gives his all for his audience, and all of the other actors are in there pitching as hard as they can.
Yep.
And
it's a big screen movie. It is a movie to bring people back into the theaters. A for effort. This is a big screen movie to bring people back into the theaters for sure. Right.
But to solve the problem of escalating villainy, eventually you have to end up with God.
Right.
You have to end up with something with superpowers, with things that humans cannot cope with. And since Mission Impossible doesn't exist in the Marvel universe, where you have literal gods from Asgard or villains from named Thanos, you have to come up with something with godlike powers.
Right.
And godlike powers in this day and age means absolute control over the digital universe where everyone gets their information, absolute control over the truth. And that would be an artificial intelligence. The question is it actually a villain? Because, the worst people in this movie, literally, are all the greedy, nefarious intelligence outfits of every country. So it's not saying the U.S. is uniquely vicious or malevolent or ambitious or aggressive. It's everybody's trying to get this thing because everybody wants to control the world. Like, okay, so we have our villains. It's toxic bureaucracies, which every country has, and we have a team of broken souls who come together to fight the supervillain, whatever the supervillain may be. And that's Science Fiction University for this episode.
Science Fiction University is a project of DGBG Productions. You can support the show by donating via Patreon or PayPal. Details at our website, sciencefictionuniversity.com.
See you next time.
See you next time.